This video is brought to you by the high-speed world of Phantom Spark, a precision time trial racing game coming soon to Steam, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox. Over to Steam to wishlist Phantom Spark and try the demo today.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome to DevHeads, the podcast focused on the ins, outs, and goings on of game development with hosts experience ranging from indie double to AAA. I'm Jay. I'm joined by my wonderful co-host Tina.
Hello. How's it going?
And Mikey.
Yo, hello.
And this is a very early edition of DevHeads because you've got places to be later on, right, Mikey?
I do. The second win team and the dev heads are quite accommodating to my needs. And they were immediately accommodating. Wasn't even a question. They were like, yeah, let's try to make that work. Yeah. So thank you everybody who's watching and for being okay with the different. I'm seeing yawns in the chat.
It's a little bit because what time is it for you guys right now?
It's
7:33 in the AM.
Yeah.
God damn.
I'm glad you guys can't smell my breath because I didn't do anything about that this morning.
we haven't
No
got
need.
Yeah.
We haven't got smell-o-vision yet, so we're safe.
All good.
Hopefully they don't retroactively do it to past media, because then we're fucked.
Can I share a quick smell-related gaming anecdote? It's my favorite. Adam Sessler, I think is his name. This was like post-X Play, like at an E3 or some event I was at. I was listening to a talk with him and someone else. And he was talking to a sort of biz dev type, I think. I can't remember exactly. And this guy was saying, there's some pretty interesting, weird texts that I've seen over the years. And one of them was like gaming that had an olfactory component, like something you attached under your nose. And Adam Sessler, I think it was, blinked and he said, I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't want to know what Quake smells like.
Yeah, no thanks. What
year
would be
was
the
that?
worst smelling franchise?
Yeah.
Quake?
I can't remember the year, actually. And what did you say, Jay?
What would be the worst smelling franchise? Like, I think Quake's up there.
No.
Quake's up. The soot,
Maybe.
the
No.
explosives,
What
the
about
gore.
Do you guys remember Toe Jam and Earl?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that takes place on Alien Worlds, which might smell good. We don't
No,
really
his
know.
name's
Toe
Toe
Jam
Jam.
himself, he probably doesn't
Yeah.
smell very good. But the worlds are like kind of wide, so you could like walk to the other end and stay away from Toe Jam.
You've got to think that someone, if they name themselves Toe Jam, or their parents name them Toe Jam, they probably don't care that much about what they smell like. So they probably stank.
It's pretty nasty.
Yeah.
Someone in the chat said Scorn. Another person said Borderlands. Yeah.
Oh, Scorn. Yeah, I think like FromSoft, like Souls, all of those swamps and just like bogs and stuff. And
Yeah,
death.
that's fair.
Gross. All the bosses with all their different parts and all the different crevices or sweat
next
to
video
build
of
up.
mine is going to be a top 10 smelliest bosses in Dark Souls.
There's a lot of Doom too.
My voice does not smell like any of these.
It doesn't smell like a bog.
Yeah.
But we were going to, and we kind of announced it on our socials and stuff, that we were going to have a guest. We are going to have a Bubakar on for this episode. But unfortunately, because of Hollywood things, because our man Abubakar's a legit celeb, had to go do some stuff, which is unfortunate, but these things happen, and we're going to reschedule for another date so we can still get him on and talk about his experiences and stuff like that. But instead, we thought we'd decide to sit down and just kind of discuss how the dev heads got into game development, and the different avenues, because we all took different routes into the industry, and it's a question we get a lot in chat, and on Twitter and stuff like that. Is people might be looking to get into the games industry but don't know how, or think they can't. And I think hearing about our experiences and also discussing other avenues for you guys might be real interesting. Tina, what was your kind of avenue to? Well, first of all, what made you want to get into game development?
Well, I was playing games since I was 4, and then when
Yeah.
I was in college, I had across the hall from me there was a room full of like 5 or 6 guys, and they had an Xbox. Yeah, Xbox, not 360. Yeah, Xbox. And we would play Halo all the time, and I realized that now that I'm like graduating in a few months, I have no idea what I want to do, and I started panicking. And I had an English major, so everyone would make fun of me, like, "What are you gonna do with that?" So I started Googling every company of the games I loved, right? So I looked up like Sega, EA, Activision, and I just started applying for jobs. Like I didn't know what jobs there really were. Like my parents never told me what the game industry had to offer. I didn't know what the game industry had to offer. I just knew that I played them. I was the first in my family to go to school too, so everyone was sort of like panicking for me, which was extremely stressful. So yeah, I sent my resume to over 50 different companies. I tailored each one to that company. And towards the very end, I started like losing steam, and I applied for I think it was a senior sales and marketing position at Koei Corporation. And they, at the time, published Dynasty Warriors and Kessen, and it was a Japanese company, and they had an office here in California in Burlingame. And I didn't know at the time, but there was only like 4 people that worked out of that office. It was a satellite office. So when I interviewed and I told them like I love Kessen, like I wrote this long thing. They ended up changing the position for me to an entry level, and then they brought me on board, which was really cool.
Oh wow, that's lovely.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
What
you
year
were
was
just
that?
applying a lot. Sorry.
It was the year 1860. No, it was 2007. Is the year I graduated.
What would you say game education was like back then? Like, were
There was
minimum-
nothing really.
Nothing.
I don't think there was anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no video game related stuff. And back then when I met devs, like when I met Tim Schafer and his crew, they all just sort of self-taught themselves everything, right? Like messed around with the computer at home when they were kids and stuff. So, yeah, there was nothing yet.
It's difficult to like think about in that situation not having an education, because I was fortunate enough to have an education in game design and game dev, and the courses that I did were very broad, and they
Yeah.
were very keen on teaching us all of the different spaces and talents that are needed to create a game. So I had an idea of like even what I wanted to specialize in, rather than just being like knowing you want to work in games and just having to be like not sure what kind of roles there are. I'm going to apply to all of these things. Well, it's a good job you didn't lose steam and you kept going, because look at you now.
Yeah, I think that was like the key component that a lot of people, when they ask, how do you get in games, you need to be very persistent and not listen to people when they tell you no, because eventually something's gonna give. But it is a very, just from my personal experience, it's like it's a very hard thing to understand and crack from the outside. Like there wasn't really anyone available to say, "Hey, here's what I did," or "Here's what you should do." But I'm again like just playing games my whole life. Didn't know anyone in the industry. I was fortunate enough to live in the Bay Area, so I went to GDC thinking like, oh, I can meet someone that will help me out as a student. And I think the student passes back then were $90. The average ticket now is like $1,000 or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, $90, and I got to go to some talks. I saw people presenting, and I tried to meet them afterwards and stuff, but they would ask like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, "Nothing yet." I
You were
want to do
hustling. You were
something.
hustling. You were
Yeah.
networking. You were
And then
doing
they're
what you
like,
got to do at GDC.
"Oh, yeah." And they're like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I have no idea. Just make games."
Do you recommend that? Like going to if you're kind of starting out and you're able to get, say, like a
Mhm,
pass to go to GDC and network,
mhm.
would you recommend like networking as a way to get your foot in the door?
Yes, but for many reasons, not just for the career aspect. I think it's a good morale boost to just be around other people that make games or like want to make games. It definitely clears your head and kind of helps you focus and get more inspiration to keep going and applying. But in addition to that, there's a lot of opportunity to learn. Um, Sitting in those panels, you could learn all sorts of things like what it takes to produce a game. There's probably going to be stuff about AI by the time people listening to us eventually go, if they have the opportunity. So yeah, I would encourage it, but again, like, I wouldn't break your bank account to do it. I wasn't a wealthy student. I don't think anyone is. So yeah, it was hard for me to like scrounge up that extra money, but I was
Yeah.
very thankful to do so. It was in my backyard.
Yeah. It's good to be realistic about it because going to these events and if you're looking for work or to network, it's to temper your expectations in the sense of you're not going to go there and get swept up by some magical dev who's going to offer you a job immediately. I mean, these things do
Hmm.
happen,
Hmm.
but because of that, you need to have for those things to possibly happen, you have to have quite a decent portfolio.
Hmm.
And I think that's something that's really important for me that I will always encourage is having a portfolio and creating is way more powerful than any form of education you could have. As someone who, has that education and taught in that university space as well, having a decent portfolio that, might not be to an industry standard, but shows that you have that drive and passion to do those things is way more beneficial to you than having a degree, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Even to get into the
Mhm.
education space, I remember when I went to do my degree in the first year, the the person who now runs the uni course, he runs 3 of them, all of the game dev courses at the uni I taught at. He runs them all now. He has he had no GCSEs, like
Mhm.
which are like English like high school education,
Yeah.
like certificates. He had none of them and was just kind of working in a grocery store for 10 years and decided I want to get into games. But no university would take him because he didn't have the education. So he just made 2 games by himself in Unreal and sent them into the at the time the head lecturer and said, "Here, I made this by myself. I'm passionate. I know I don't have the qualifications. Let me prove myself to you." And they let him
Mhm.
on the course. He then got the highest grade on every single assignment and now runs the courses.
Damn.
And that's what matters, is showing that you have the passion and the drive and the want to develop the skill.
Hmm.
That's what matters. That's going to get you through doors. It's
Yeah.
if a job is asking for one thing, you never know. Send in your stuff. They might see your portfolio and be like, damn, this is actually exactly what we're looking for. Yeah, they might not have the experience or the qualifications we want, but let's give them a chance, right? Just don't
Hmm.
give up on that stuff.
Yeah. I'll also say that YouTube and Twitter and all the social media stuff wasn't really a thing when I graduated. So there's probably a lot more available now for free online somewhere.
Big time.
100.
Yeah. Yeah. You mean as far as like courses and stuff?
Yeah, or just anecdotes about how people got in, or just even recommendations, free courses.
Yeah. There's a lot of really good stuff on YouTube, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
Udemy is another good one. That's paid, but they have sales all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's Udemy. If anybody wants to look it up, lots of good courses there for Unreal, for Unity, whatever. Really.
I mean, Unreal's like the one that a lot of people use right now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's hot right now.
definitely good to get into. That's all. When I was at the uni, that's one of the main engines we focused on. I mean, we stopped teaching Unity for obvious reasons, and moved to Godot and stuff like that. But Unreal is a really good one to get into. Developing those skills, it's just like with any artistic endeavor. If you're looking to do it as a career, it's going to take time to build up the skills to be kind of, I don't want to say the word competitive in the industry, but at the end of the day, especially and unfortunately, because of all of the layoffs, when you apply now, you are going to be competing with people who probably do have more experience and time in the industry than you, which, yeah, does put you on the back foot a little bit. But that doesn't change how people may view like your portfolio, or what you can bring to the table artistically might be unique compared to someone else, and might be what they're looking for. So especially if you're thinking about getting into the industry, but you're disheartened by seeing all of the, well, you should be, and it's terrible that all these layoffs are happening. There's no good way about it. But don't think there's never going to be any opportunity for me because everyone else is looking as well. You know, you don't know what you could bring. You just need to take the time to, develop that unique portfolio, if that's the way of putting it.
It's a scary time, and everybody has their own theories. Everybody has their speculation on, oh, we're just in a cycle. It'll get better. No, it's going to fundamentally change. Oh, well, AI is going to do this. Oh, no, it won't do anything. It's anybody's guess, really. The thing that I'm saying, that I say now is like, who knows? And yeah, it's scary. But look, if you are curious about it and it's interesting to you, then just start doing it. And if it draws you and you're like, hey, this is fun, I'm enjoying this, I'm passionate, I'm really driven to do this, well, just keep going with it. You'll feel it if it's something that calls you. And make sure your finances and your family and everything else is handled. And depending on, you'll set your own tempo and you'll go as far with it as you want to. If it's something you develop a passion for and you get into, well, then try, right? Then you just prove to yourself, okay, this is interesting, I'm going to give it a go. Because at the end of the day, nobody knows how the space might change or how it might not change. So just go for it. Try to be passionate. Teach yourself. I also, I guess, coming from like the modding background and working with the people that I did when I started in like 2013, I definitely have a bit of a bias toward like, well, you don't need to go to school. You can always do modding stuff. Now the space, I think, has changed a lot. Like modding will definitely teach you things, help you to network, etc. But back then, like the tools weren't as good as they are now. When I say the tools, I mean Unreal, Godot, Unity, whatever. So, and on top of that, all the resources are really, really nice. Just like I was saying, Udemy, YouTube, you can learn so much from using those things. And you don't necessarily need to like go to a game that you like and start modding it. That's not to say like, you can't. It's a great idea. And it might be a better start, especially if you're passionate about the game. Do whatever feels exciting to you. And if it keeps drawing you in, then lean into it and say, all right, well, maybe I'll send out my stuff. It's just like you're saying, Jay, like have a portfolio. It's the best kind of start. I think it's better than just handing people a college resume and saying like, well, I took these courses. Having something goes really far. When I'm looking at an application or a resume, that's what I'll look at. I also encourage, and this is just me, I'd be curious what Jay and Tina think of this, but keep it gaming focused, like whatever you put on there. Like it's not important to know that you worked at a car wash, right? Or that you worked at a coffee shop. That's good. Like you should keep doing that because you got to make ends meet. And it shows, that you're the kind of person that can hold a job, right? Like that's of course important. Anytime you want to hire somebody, you want to see work experience. But at the same time, like it might draw from the focus away a little bit. And if you have enough to fill the resume of like gaming projects, even if they were student projects or independent ones that were multi-month, multi-year, put that front and center. That's what's important to see, of course.
think it's how you frame it, right? It's the sentence of, "Oh, I while pursuing and developing my skills within the games industry, I also held down jobs, part-time jobs in the service industry or whatever." Again, like you said, shows that you can hold down a job while pursuing these things, which is super important, right? Being able to pursue your passions while also working is a really good skill to have. Keeping it gaming focused is really important. I think you were saying before, if two people with the exact same education and skill level, say in 3D art, go to a job interview for a 3D artist job, like an environment artist, and one hands their master's degree and the other hands a portfolio and 3 environments they've created and a really nice portfolio, I guarantee you the portfolio would win and would get the job if those two applied at the same time. Because having a degree is all well and good and shows that degrees are effectively the same as holding down that job. They're showing that you can dedicate yourself to a thing for an extended period of time and gather knowledge.
Yeah.
But it's not the same as actually showing the physical evidence
Doing
of
it.
what you can do.
I can do it. Here I am doing it. Right. That's
Yeah.
it goes a long way. What
I
do you
did
think,
want-
Tina?
Yeah.
I did
Or-
want to
sorry,
bring
go
up that like it's okay if you don't know exactly what you want to do in video games, because I didn't, right? I just kind of fell into everything I did. You can't really have a portfolio if you don't know what you want to do or understand what developers do. Especially for production. Like, I've never seen a producer with a portfolio. I kind of get envious of that. Like, I wish I had a way of showing what I physically did for all the games I worked
Your
on.
portfolio is the games, right, that you worked on. That's
Yeah, I guess.
That's
but,
true.
you know,
You're an organizer, Sue. Yeah.
I will argue though that when you work in AAA, like literally 300 to 900 people are saying the exact same thing. Like, I worked on this game. That's cool, but like, how do you prove that the portion or like the responsibilities you had were
led to
significant?
that success or something.
Yeah, right. Like even now, when I look at like COD or Apex or anything I did in the past, like, there's people that are saying like, I created Apex. And I'm like, I have no idea who you are. I think you started maybe a few years after the game launched, which is cool. Like, I'm not gonna like, I'm not upset by someone saying that, but
Yeah.
being there from inception and getting it out the door is, I think, a more significant thing to do than like coming in after the game's established and then working on it. But again, like, I kind of derailed there. I just wanted to say that, don't be discouraged if you don't have a portfolio. I would still like hone in on what your like one focus is and then just keep driving towards it. And also, you don't have to hit your main target on the first try. What I mean by that is you may get a job in the game industry that you may not necessarily love. You may even hate it. And I think that's okay. I think the most important thing is that you got your foot in the door and you're like a few steps or one step closer to that dream job that you actually want to get to. Because I see a lot of young people applying to something. They're like, I want to be a creative director on this franchise. And I'm like, God damn, like, creative director. That's going to take a few years.
Ambitious.
Yeah. But, like, you're going to have to break it down into smaller steps. And that's okay.
I agree with that. I largely agree with that. I think it's super important to understand that you have to start small and accept, like, okay, my goal is to do design or production or community, but you know what, this QA role is here for me now. It's a good project. I know a person there, and they say the team it's got a good team culture to it, whatever, and that's good. At the same time, you got to make sure you don't get stuck. There's certainly nothing wrong with any like particular department of working in games. They each have their pros and cons, but like, be sure that you I do think it really helps to have that portfolio or that other ambition or just something, because when the opportunity comes where it's like, hey, actually, I'd really like to jump on this. Here's why I can do it. It's good. But I also hear what you're saying, Tina, where like, what do you show people when you get into production and you want to do production? How do you prove that? I guess Jay and I are thinking more from like the the art, design,
Art side,
Yeah,
sound,
of
etc.
course. Yeah, code.
I think it goes to, so like, let's say you get your foot in the door in whatever role, you know, community management, QA, whatever. Let's use QA as the example. You
Mhm.
get in and you're an
Classic.
aspiring 3D artist and you want to work in 3D environment art, but you can't because they're just not taking you seriously or whatever. What you can do is, just like we were talking about, working in a coffee shop and proving that you can still pursue your passions at the same time. Working in QA is the exact same situation. It's a decent job. Like, QA's not bad at all. But if you want to pursue 3D art still, you still need to carve out your free time to keep working your portfolio. You're just in a much more privileged space now to have the opportunity to go to the current 3D artists and basically show them what you've done and ask for feedback. You're not asking for a job. You're asking for feedback and, you know, how to improve and what they think of it. And this gets your work in their mind, and you're a consideration for whenever jobs do come up. And also you're improving. Like,
Mhm.
everyone's in that situation where you get to communicate with industry professionals in a field on a day-to-day basis. So that's how I would approach trying to work up the ladder, is kind of like, keep your passion and keep your portfolio going, just expand that and show that to the relevant people. And
Yep.
then at the very least your skills will improve. And then you can take that to whatever you do next, you know?
Hey,
Keep
that's
hustling.
kind of what I did to get to where I am now. So when I was working at Koei, 5-person team, they said, okay, your job is to, you know, send physical requests to CD makers to make the game and send it to stores, but also try to get game journalists to write about our games. I'm like, okay, that should be fine. And I go to GameSpot and be like, please, like, we put a door in our game. Please put it on the front page of GameSpot.
Right about the door.
Yeah, we have a ladder now you can climb. It's like really
Hey,
cool.
you guys know that door content's real hot right now. You don't want to
Yeah.
be left behind, IGN.
You know, so, you know, I like drive my car to their offices and stuff. I go in, I'm like, oh my god, this place is so cool. Like, there's like games everywhere and arcade machines and stuff. And I'm like, yo, we push the fog back so you can see a little bit more enemies near you on screen when you're fighting. And
Nice.
they'd be like, okay. And, you know, it's just like such a defeating moment. But getting to know people was like a huge thing I didn't realize would help me in the future. So when
Oh yeah.
decided to hire a community manager, because they're like, I think this is a thing we need. They just asked me because I was always there, like, please, like, put our game on the front page of your website. Yeah, and then I jumped at it and I got that job, and it was really cool. But yeah, I felt like every place I've been at has been a stepping stone to like the new one, because you're meeting more people, you're expanding your network, and they consider you more seriously when they sort of know who you are, rather than like cold calling somebody, which is an unfortunate reality in any, I think, industry. But yeah, just getting FaceTime with the people that matter to you is important too.
More than it should, honestly. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't want to say like the games industry is only
Incestuous.
nepotism, right? Or incestuous, yeah. But I do think, you know, people will think, we need a 3D artist for this. Oh wait, didn't I meet that nice 3D artist at GDC? And they'll pull up that portfolio. And hell, like, your portfolio might be better than the nice 3D artist at GDC, but people are people, and it's like any other industry. So they'll go and they'll hire the nice person that they met. And in that sense, it can be a bit of a shame, but just like any other industry, like, you kind of just have to deal with that aspect of it. You know, people hire their friends or people that made a good impression, even if their quality is like the same as yours or worse. So, you know, get yourself out there. It was tough for me because I grew up in fucking Jersey, right? So I was in suburban Jersey, and there's no game development really in Philly, or very little in New York City.
Is there a
And
Rockstar studio out there in
yeah,
New York?
I think
Okay.
they are. Yeah, yeah. There's
Okay.
Rockstar. I think the people who made Homefront years ago were started in Philly
Are out
or
there.
based out of Philadelphia, which I can't remember. But there's very
Bethesda's
little.
in Massachusetts. Yeah, like on the
Yeah.
East Coast. There's some, but not a lot, right?
Yeah, there's some. Most of it's out here, in Southern California and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that it's super important to, I guess, deal with that aspect and just accept that that's true, and then just be ambitious. You try to get yourself out to these kinds of events. If you're like me and you grew up in, a suburb somewhere I wasn't remote, right? Like I was just in
Mhm.
central New Jersey, but I think that you need to do your best to try to get out to some events.
Well, I want to
And
hear what you did.
going to a
What
school.
did you go to like New York Comic Con and stuff?
No,
No?
I went to my story is interesting, I guess. I find it interesting. I got pretty lucky. I
Okay.
got I went to school at the University of Delaware, right? So I made myself a little more removed from the big urban centers of the country if I go to school in Delaware.
Mhm.
And I studied mass communications, sort of like a sociology of media. I also, like you, like I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I
Mhm.
enjoyed doing stuff at the radio station. If you're ever driving through Delaware and you turn on the WVUD radio station, 91.3, I think it still is, you might actually still hear some of my promotions that I voiced. I basically founded a team of people to help me do, it was like 5 to 8, I think, PSAs, promotions. We would write them, we would do the voices, and it was a lot of fun. I never actually had a show. I just like doing the promotions and PSAs.
Can you give like
public
a
stuff.
preview of what a promotion sounds like? What's your promotional voice?
It was just, it would be all different kinds of
Yeah.
voices. Usually just me, like we would do like a skit. We would write a little skit to advertise a rock show that weekend at this bar in town or whatever, or an event on campus. So it was pretty dynamic and fun, I guess, in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool to do that, but yeah, not good for the game. But I was always a gamer and I liked the radio station. And I thought, well, you know what? Like, what if I tried to do voice acting, because I'm enjoying this radio thing and I like my hobby
Yeah.
of gaming? I'll just
Yeah.
smash these together. So I got into modding. Like I did voiceover for a bunch of different mods, a lot of them mostly in like the Half-Life space, Half-Life 1 and 2 modding. I saw Irby was in the chat earlier. Hi, Irby. Irby's a Half-Life 1 modder working on a mod called The Core. And there's a lot of different. I got involved with like a mod called Underhell. I did a bunch of them. Excuse me. And then eventually I got to a point where I made a connection through Underhell, worked with a guy who then got onto a team as a level designer doing Insurgency, the original, in 2013. And he said, hey, like there's no voices in this game. Why don't you come on and like send them your demo reel, Mikey? And I said, okay, sure, I'll do it. So I sent them my demo reel, and the guy who, founded it, like Jeremy Blum is his name. He founded the Red Orchestra team. People know Red Orchestra. I think when he was 14 years old, which is pretty wild. And he said, hey, you sound pretty good. Can you voice everybody? And that was my first commercial game. That was just everybody. Literally. Now, I always say this. People use the word literally now to mean figuratively. I mean literally. Every single voice in the original Insurgency is me, except for one or two, which was our QA guy, Mike Smith. That was in the tutorial area. Everybody else is me. And so I did that. I just kind of jumped in. Don't be afraid to do stuff that makes you uncomfortable, I guess, is another good piece of advice, because I was definitely not comfortable with just doing that, but I figured it out. And there were definitely some parts that didn't come out great, I think, that I'm not happy with, but I was happy with most of it, and I made it work. And I had the experience and practice from modding. I got feedback from like the rest of the team that said, do this works. I was doing the writing and stuff as well. Like this is kind of when I got my narrative design start too. I was doing triggers and writing dialogue, and which is what I'd already been doing, like with the radio stuff and the other mods. I was writing and doing comm stuff even. And that's kind of how I got to start. And then there was an opening for a community manager. And so I moved into that. From there, voiceover direction, yada, yada. Like it was just this whole sequence. I worked on Black Mesa around that time too. Again, writing, voiceover, again, because I had those connections and I knew somebody who was working with them through the modding community and the Half-Life community. And then it's like you said, it just builds and builds and builds. And that's why I say I got lucky. Like luck is a definite component of all of this, and it's the one that's like the hardest to acknowledge because it's completely out of our control, right? It's luck after all.
Hmm. Dang, that's cool.
It's part
Thanks,
luck.
yeah.
It's also part like you clearly had a direction you wanted to go, and like you said about your demo reel, you had been building up, a portfolio of stuff that you wanted to show, and that along with networking and luck and stuff like that, it's this combination of things that get you to where
Mhm.
you are
Right.
today. It's crazy. Yeah.
It is. You're right. It's a combination. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, my move into game dev is weird because I moved out and then back in. So I got my education, blah 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 blah. Got my degree in game dev. Was going to started a company with two other fellow devs, and we were going to make virtual reality games, like commercially for like local people around England. They wanted like a virtual reality version of their big college, and we would make it and do things like that. And we were going to get funding and to do all of that. And I cannot name the person who we met, but basically met someone who had released a AAA game that year and said that in the span that they were making it, they had had 2 children and they had barely seen them, and the game flopped and the company was about to be shut down. And
yeah, man.
Not
at
worth
that point,
it, right?
I was like,
No.
I was going through some weird like relationship stuff at the time, and I was like thinking about how I'm like quite family driven.
Mhm.
And this person saying I've had 2 kids and I've barely seen them, and I put 5 years into this game and it's dead.
Yeah.
I immediately quit. I was like, I'm done. I was like, I'm gonna go do something else. This isn't for me. It was mainly due to a lot of other things that are going on in my life, but I stopped, then went to work in education, teaching special needs children for a few years. And then I was like, oh, I want to get back into game dev. But I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was like, level design, sound design, music, all of that. But I was like, I really want to find my thing, because a lot of people have been saying it in chat. There are so many jobs in game dev that like the people don't even realize.
Yep.
And sometimes it's difficult to look at that sea of jobs and think, what do I want to do? Because you don't have to specialize, but having a kind of specialized portfolio that's aiming in a direction does help you a lot. So I was like, what am I going to do? And I missed editing. So this is kind of like also a story about how I started to become a YouTuber. They're kind of entangled, these stories. Basically, I was chatting to my mum and she was like, if you could do anything, what would you do? And I was like, well, I really want to edit. I love editing videos and I want to work in the game. I want to work in game design again. And she was like, well, how could you do that? And at the time I was like, I guess I could become a YouTuber and do game dev stuff. And she was like, well, then fucking do it then. I didn't even think it was a possibility, right? But yeah, I worked on that for a few years. And that got me a job at the uni because I was doing game design videos and basically doing research full time, basically researching different techniques, different ways of doing things, how other games are doing things, and compiling them into a bite-sized video format. And I'm trying to teach my viewers things. And the university I used to go to contacted me and was like, hey, Jay, I keep stealing your videos and basically writing it into a script and then teaching it to my students. Do you just want to come do that instead? Because
shit,
we can skip the middleman.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, okay. So me just making YouTube videos got me a job as an associate professor. And then I taught at the uni for like 3 years while pursuing YouTube stuff. And then, speaking of luck, Mikey, it was this whole thing. Didn't know. I think I've told you guys privately this story, but I haven't told the viewers. It was like I needed to make a video, made one on Borderlands, didn't want to do it, scrapped it. Made one on Oxenfree, didn't work, scrapped it. Was like really close to my deadline. I was like, I have no idea what I want to do. And a friend of mine was like, "Oh, do a video on Hyperlight Drifter." And I was like, "Okay, sure. Let's just bash a Hyperlight Drifter video together." Made it, put it out there, put it on Reddit. You know, trying to get some new viewers interested. And Nick found it on Reddit. Nick Calandra, the editor-in-chief of what was then The Escapist, and was like, "Hey, really like what you're doing. Do you just want to do it over here for more money?" At The Escapist, and
you were like, money.
I was like, "Money? Oh no, I'm an artist. Fuck your money." And then I started working The Escapist.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
But it was a friend of mine who randomly said do a video on Hyperlight Drifter, because Nick said to me, if you didn't make a video on Hyperlight Drifter and you didn't post it on Reddit and it didn't have the very specific old YouTube intro that I used to have, he said he wouldn't have contacted me at all. But because all of those things happened, I'm now here. And then more YouTube stuff got me my job on the Bog, which is one of the games I'm working on currently. And money! Thanks, Nick. And there's another game I'm working on, which also I can't talk about, but has also been birthed into being because of my Design Delve YouTube career thing.
There you go.
So I got into the space. Well, I got back into the space by making YouTube videos, which is weird. But again, my YouTube, like my show, is my portfolio of demonstrating the knowledge I have, my ability to research specific topics and understand certain things on at whatever degree of level and stuff, and that's got me to where I am now. But it's interesting to think, well, for all of us in our careers, where we're going to be in the next 5-10 years, right? We could be doing different roles, we could be in different spaces and different companies and stuff like that. I might be an accountant. I'm stealing that from chat. I'm going to be a game dev accountant.
You're not.
Wait, somebody said in chat that you're an accountant.
No, somebody said that there's,
be?
I can't remember who said it. Sorry, guys. But somebody said game devs have like accountants that work in house. So like you could be an accountant and work in the games industry.
Yeah, Respawn had one, and then he became a producer.
Oh, okay, I thought you were going to say he turned into Godzilla or something like.
He went from accounting to video game production.
There he was, filling out some forms, having a meeting with a client, but he turned into
God! These numbers don't line up.
Yeah, it made him really upset.
Fucking rages.
Let me ask you guys something. Do you feel like are you at your end game now? Like, do you feel like this is it? This is your jam?
No. I feel like one of the things I struggle with the most is that I've just spent the last 5 years of my life effectively full-time doing what doctorate students do, which is hyper researching specific topics.
Yeah.
To do their doctorates. And I've just done that in the sense of my YouTube videos are my essays of like, here's my dive into this one thing. Not all of them. Some of them are just like memey bullshit of me just trying to make people laugh. But I'm always trying to educate while I do my show. And what I struggle with most is I am currently working on my two games simultaneously as my first fully shipped projects. And I feel like I need to have that under my belt for me to feel like, I'm currently talking the talk, but I want to walk the walk as well. And not a lot of people say that stuff. I have friends, well, like you guys and other friends in the industry. Like I was speaking to, can't name the studio, a lead level designer at a studio. We were out for food the other day, and we were talking about, me working on games and how I'm in the process of shipping my first view, and how some people might not take what I say seriously because of that. And he was like, and this is not me trying to like inflate my head ego, but he says, he thinks that in the end run I could be a better level designer and designer because of what I'm doing, because I'm constantly expanding and trying to gather as much knowledge as possible rather than just working on one specific thing for 5 years. Which I appreciate. I think there are pros and cons to both. But he kind of helped me come to the understanding is like, I'm just taking a different route into design and like how to expand that. So I guess the end game for me is just I want to get the games I'm working on out, and then I want to move. I still want to keep doing my show. So everyone who loves my show, I'm not like planning to get rid of it or anything. But I want to do game dev stuff more full time. Because at the moment YouTube is my full time job. And I'd like to have game dev be my full time thing, and then design delve is the thing I work on, you know, on the side, which, because at the moment it's in reverse. And I want to move into that and make my dream jobs and expand and be in a privileged space where hopefully the games that I'm working on now do well enough where we can expand the companies to hire more people into the industry and give them their dream jobs and stuff like that. So that's where I want to get to. It's just who'd have thought game dev takes a long fucking time, you know? It's, you know, takes a long time. Are you guys at your end game? Or what are you thinking?
Go ahead, Mikey.
No, where I'm at now is cool and interesting and different, like doing the consulting and contracting thing. I've been enjoying it. It's it could become an end game, I guess, but I don't feel like it is right now. Like I think that there's another like more full-time dedicated opportunity there in the future for me. I don't know what it looks like or what it'll be, but that's kind of like, if I had to answer now, I see that. I feel like what I'm doing now, though, at the same time, though, is pretty cool. I could see myself just like committing to this because, you know, getting to work with a lot of different teams, a lot of different projects definitely keeps the work interesting. It's challenging because every team, every project is different, as opposed to just like you're saying, Jay, like being the person who's done the same thing for 5 years over and over on like a single project, because now we have really long post-release cycles, right? And I'm enjoying that aspect of it. But like if I had to answer now, my gut says like, no, I'm going to get back into something eventually. That's kind of where my head is at now. And that would probably be like, you know, in design or something like that, something high level, creative director, game director, something like that. It's it'd probably be there, but I don't know. I'm definitely a guy who I really want to work on, and this sounds like a people are going to hear this and might think, well, duh, but it's true. Like I want to work on projects that I'm passionate about. First and foremost is like having a good team, 100%. And then second is something that I can get excited by. So far, that's been a lot of FPS. I'm very passionate about that genre, specifically like tactical FPS and stuff, not exclusively. So I'm into all kinds of FPS styles, and like maybe there's a different one within that, or maybe there's something outside of that. But no, I'm certainly not done it. It's crazy to say I've been doing this for over 10 years. It's true, but I'm not. I want to keep doing new stuff. That's maybe it's this is a part of my personality. I try to like challenge, right? Just like anybody should, I think. It's part of what brought me to move, you know, to Europe and live in Amsterdam for a few years. I moved to Canada, moved here to LA. Trying new stuff is fun. I try to challenge myself to do it. What about you, Tina?
No, absolutely not where I want to be right now.
Absolutely not. Why absolutely?
No. So when I was working on AAA games, my first AAA game I think hit me the hardest with crunch. I did like 7-day work weeks for months on end, to the point where I didn't even know how the president of the United States got elected. I didn't know who the president was until after the fact because I missed all of that. I would like drive down the street and see billboards for movies, and I was like, "What the hell's that?" I had no idea. It was like going into a cave and not having friends or family, and then realizing when you're done, like, holy shit, like I just lost years and I don't like what am I?
Fuck, dude.
Yeah, it was rough. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Like when you get into like hardcore crunch, like it's gnarly.
It's nutty, and it used to be
Yeah,
really bad. Like it was
yeah.
even worse than it could be now. But
I think I
sounds
was
like
probably at the tail end of like the worst being acceptable, which is unfortunate. I wish I never experienced that. But I do appreciate why I had to do it with the people around me, but I wouldn't recommend it. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I was crunching for a long time. I crunched on Apex. Crazy story. I was like producing 75, 76 devs. There was like 3 of us in
oh, only
production.
76.
Dude, it was rough. There was like no pretty formatting in any of the like schedules I had because there was just no fucking time. Which is great for me now because I use that format everywhere I go. If I went somewhere else and it's easy to update. But I had like I probably shouldn't say this publicly, but people would be unhappy, but I don't care. It's my life. I had like a mini stroke during development where I had like Bell palsy, and I remember like being rushed to the hospital by my husband because like the right side of my face just wasn't working, and my right arm and leg were just like gone. Like I wasn't drinking water, I wasn't eating enough, and I was in the ER. And I remember over the like speakers they said, "We have a stroke victim in the unit." And I remember looking at my husband, going like, "I hope they're okay," because I didn't know who they're talking about. I ended up being fine. Nothing. It's a mini stroke, which means like there was no like blood clots or anything like that. So it's all good. But I needed to rest. I rested for like 2 days and then went back to work and then finished.
2 days
Yeah, I would not
after your
recommend that again.
stroke. That was still a stroke, even if it was a small one.
I think it was like stress and yeah, it was really bad. But
would you believe me if I told you I also know a game developer who had had Bell's palsy?
No, I mean I would believe you, but yeah,
it's I don't know much about it, but like the stress of this, the body really does show, and it's kind of stupid, to be honest with you. Like sometimes I think about it, and I think this is just dumb because ultimately we make toys for adults, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna fucking die, but
Yeah.
but we still do it. That's a whole other conversation, really.
Yeah,
But anyway,
just, like,
I just thought that was interesting when you shared that.
Yeah, no, I think it happens to a lot of people that just don't talk about it because I think when you're surrounded by a bunch of people that are working just as hard, you feel like you don't want to let them down. So that's what drove me to continue working. And then when I was on God of War, I just didn't want to I just didn't want the team to feel like I wasn't pushing enough. And it was during COVID, so it was so much easier to crunch because you were at home already. So and there was nothing else to do. So I would work like 12 to 16-hour days because what else am I going to do? I watched like 13 seasons of Supernatural. So, but by the time I decided, you know what, like I'm getting on the older side, I really just want to have a family and stuff. Took a break last year in March from my job to have kids. Now that my kids are older, I'm ready to get back into work, but like lo and behold, there was like a huge wave of layoffs. And now when I do interviews with a few people, the few that I've had, a lot of the recruiters are like, "So what happened during the layoffs with you? Like, tell us your story." I'm like, "I wasn't laid off, ma'am. I just got knocked up." So I just, it's yeah, no, I definitely want to get into games. I will honestly say that the feeling of trying to get back into games during the like mass layoffs this year and last year is almost as difficult as when I was out of college trying to figure out what I want to do. Because there's so many people vying for the same jobs. And I'm not saying this to dissuade anyone. I just want to give a truth of like what's really happening right now. There's a lot of, from what I'm feeling from some recruiters, is a lot of anxiety and pressure to not want to hire people that were laid off, which frustrates the hell out of me. Like a lot of the times people are laid off, it's not because their skill set isn't there. It's because some guy at the top or guys and gals at the top just made really bad decisions with budget and time and everything, and like, had to cast people aside for shareholders. So it's frustrating because I feel like I have to start from scratch,
which is
to
mad
find
with all your
where I'm gonna go
experience.
next. Yeah.
That's mad.
It's crazy. That's a
And that,
shitty feeling to have.
yeah, and the other side of the coin, which not many people at all know, is that my husband is in video games too. I met him working on Call of Duty, but he's now a studio head. So when I want to work on shooters, there's a lot of people that are like, "Well, I don't know if I want to work with you because your husband works on a shooter and we're a competitor," and it makes
Oh,
people
fuck.
uncomfortable. Yeah. So now I'm
you
just.
would be like pushing trade secrets to them.
But
or
I
something.
never have, right? Like when
Yeah,
I
of
worked
course.
on Apex, he was working on Warzone. When I worked on, actually that's probably the only example I have, but
Two
like I
major
have,
competitors, though, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, nothing happened.
no.
And we didn't know what we were working on, so that's another weird element too, is when you have like two people living in the same household that work on different games and you can't talk about it. Like that's weird.
Bloody
There-
NDAs.
there's definitely a bit of a black operations component to put it with a fun, exciting phrase, even
Yeah.
though it's not fun and exciting. There's a lot of game dev stuff that happens in the shadows that nobody fucking knows about. Like all the games that you've played that say it was developed by this studio, you'd be surprised. There are probably some Ukrainians who worked on your game, probably some people in South America. It's way more international and involved with other contractors than you think. And those people who contract on those games, they don't get the credit unless the game doesn't do well. Then the fingers come out and you point. Now, obviously, like you can mitigate that with the contracts and stuff, but it does happen where like they'll get thrown under the bus. And if the game does well, then you'll never hear about it because why would the host studio say, oh yeah, well we hired a contractor, they did a great job. No, they're going to take the notoriety for themselves. That stuff definitely does happen. And then when those contractors finally have like a game that they worked on and it goes public and gets announced, they want to post on socials and they want to say, hey, I did this, this, and this for this game, and they can't.
That sucks.
Yeah, it's mad. I have a story. You guys will sympathize with this. You probably have tons of stories where you're like, hey, I want to say this, but I can't say specifics because it'll get me in trouble.
Mhm.
I was at my uncle's like 10th wedding anniversary or something. This was late last year. And I was talking to someone who was just there, just a random guest, and they were like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a YouTuber. I'm also a game designer. I do like game design content and stuff." And they were like, "Oh, I'm a game dev." I was like, "Oh, awesome!" So we obviously immediately hit it off, and we just
Yeah.
spent the entire evening together. So what do you work on? They're like, "Oh, I really have to be careful about how I phrase this." They worked on a major remake of a game, and it was they're like an outsourced company. So this game was handed to them, and they were like, "Hey, fix this, and like make it better and do everything." I can't go into too much more because people will figure out what I'm talking about.
It happens.
They did work on it for years, and then major company came in and said, "Actually, no, we're taking this internal," and just like took everything, and just ran. I was like, what? It was mad, and they were like, yeah, so working on something else now, but it's a real bummer that major project got like taken away from us. It's like,
And you can't put in your portfolio that you did any of that work, right?
Nope. And he was like, and this is why I'm being careful about what things are and stuff. He was like, yeah, I can't even talk about it. I shouldn't be talking to you about this. Like, and I was like, I won't say any details, but major project got taken away from them, like just like snatched out of nowhere. Kind of like how the layoff happened. Everything's fine until it's not, and then it's the perils of working in the AAA space. Sometimes a lot of the decisions get made for you by higher ups, and you're not informed until it's too late.
Yeah, it's like the beauty and curse of not having to worry about the financial side of game development.
Yeah.
I've got another. Your vague story reminds me of a story that I will also tell vaguely, Jay. Of I'm trying to think of the way to phrase it.
Put the
Main
black bar over his eyes so you can
get a
get more
black bar
detail.
over my eyes. Hey, COD Black Ops 6, right, is coming out soon, so this is going to be on theme, or with the times, I guess.
Yeah.
The so one studio wanted to add this mode. Shit, this might be too. I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. I'm going to go a little vaguer just to be safe. Basically, they wanted to do this content, and they were working within this brand. Eric, you just did it. Should I modulate my voice?
Yeah.
This is one brand. They
Modulate.
wanted to work on the project. Now I look evil.
Oh god! Oh Jesus!
Am I about to kill someone? Jeez.
You look like the bad guy in Kingdom Hearts. What are they called? The
That's
dark
what's coming for you for breaking
Yeah.
the NDA.
Yeah, I better be careful. No, it's good. Basically, it was a brand. It was a popular brand, and they were going to do a game mode within the brand for one project, and they were really excited about it. They had a pitch for it. I think they were going to do it. It was going to be well received, and then it didn't work out because the people that they pitched to, they're like, okay, this looks pretty good. Yeah, maybe in the future we'll do it. It was something like that, I think. And then eventually enough time passed where they came back to it and they were like, oh, we gave that to this other studio that's working on this other part of the brand. So they took their concept and just gave it to someone else, this thing that they were excited about. And they were kind of like totally within their rights to do that, right? Because they were the people that made the call there within that brand.
Scummy things happen. It's like, and Tina, I'm sure you've got lots of stories about things happening.
Girl, how much time you got? I did want to circle back though, and and say that you're never really gonna reach an end game necessarily in game development, because once you finish working on something, you're gonna want to jump into something else, and whatever that something else is, whether it's at the same studio that you happen to be at or a new company, there's always new, I guess, like challenges to face, right? So, the long story short, I guess I want people watching this to realize that if you're going to get into game development, you may not like the game you're working on, but eventually you'll get there, because there's always like a reset button. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of if you're curious, if you like games and you're curious about, like, I think I might like to work in games. I used to say try modding. That still applies. Try modding. See if it excites you. See if you're into it. Don't quit your day job. Provide for yourself. Provide for your family, etc. But try that and see where it takes you. I don't know, just like, oh, I want to do 3DR. Oh, I think I want to design levels. Or, oh, I want to do everything myself. The tools are never better. They're better than they ever have been, as I was saying earlier. Just try and see where it takes you. If you get really passionate, to keep going, but just don't quit your day job, and like be careful. And remember that, like, it might sound strange to say because we're talking about getting into the industry, but it could just be a fun thing you do on the side because it's fun. Like, that's real. It could be a thing that you do part-time along with your full-time job. Like, I know plenty of people who did that, then they got into games. And there's other people that did that and then they just kind of stopped and they got their satisfaction from it. That might be a path. So the end of that is basically to say, kind of like I was saying before, like, just try it and see how it makes you feel, and see where it takes you. Don't go in with, like, it's okay to go in like having a goal, but it's also okay to go in without a goal and just experimenting and playing around.
Everything you make early on is not going to be pretty. That's like something I like to latch onto. Whether you're doing art, sound, design, the first thing you make is not going to be the masterpiece that sells 1 million copies on Steam, right? It's a way for you. It's the same in any form of game development. We prototype, we iterate, and we move towards the final project. Somebody doesn't just come in with I've got the best idea ever, or I've made the perfect character for our game. Like, it's a process, and you learning how to do the specific skills you want to do to get into the industry is also a process, and just allow that process to happen. Don't get frustrated and compare yourself to other people and what they're doing. Just trust in your own process and always strive to do better. and eventually you'll get there. Just got to keep going.
I think the other important factor, or like fact that I want people to walk away with, is that not everyone in game dev knows what they're doing and all the time. I've seen like the most talented developers and designers and engineers say, okay, but how do I tackle this? Or how do I do this in the engine? Or, what do I need to, how do I start this? So that was a huge eye-opening understanding for me, because even if you spend all your time learning Unity or Unreal, when you go to major companies, a lot of the times they have their own proprietary tools. So you're just learning all over again. You're not going to know how to use their engine right away. So, it's a learning curve. And I think knowing that really kind of calms any anxiety a lot of people have about making games. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to ask for help around you. Unless you're India, then it's like, damn, you're doing everything.
Well, but then you have the community. I mean, Jay knows better than us, Tina. But like, you still have the community. You have other people. Like a lot of those boomer shooter guys are tight. Guys and gals are tight, and they have their own communities, and they can reach out and say, hey, like, GZ Dooms, I don't get this part. Can you help me, please? Can you explain this? I think that happens a good amount, and I think the same is with any sort of like a Discord for Unity or Unreal, or they have their own internal channels, right, that you could post on. Like there's options there. But you're right. It's okay to ask for help for sure.
Yeah, we reach out all the time. There was a thing we were doing with a couple shaders in a project we're working on at the moment, and it is a completely viable thing to just like, if we see, like, because my Twitter is just game dev. All it is just cool game dev shit and indie people posting, like, get super excited about how someone's rendered the floor tiling in their environment. I'm just like, oh god, and I just like have a massive conversation with them. It's completely viable.
I like how you pantomime that. That was good.
Because it's just, that's what I'm like. It's just like, I get so. I've been playing the new Elden Ring DLC, and I'm just going around like looking at their like rock textures and how they've done their tiling and stuff, and I'm like, oh. This is fabulous.
Insane,
like,
dude.
So good.
Those games look crazy.
It dawned on me the other day. I was prepping for the DLC, and I was like, man, so many people must work on this. Like, coming from the indie space where like there's 4 people working on my primary project at the moment. To think about Elden Ring and like the hundreds and hundreds of people that are just working on like environment art, and I'm just like, what's the fuck? Anyway,
from. I'm sorry. No, continue.
No, they carry on. What was it?
I'm looking up From Software now to see how many people work there.
How many people did work on it? But anyway, they on game dev, it's like in indie, it's a completely viable thing. If I see a shader that is very similar, or a way of a substance designer material that someone's made, and it's very similar to what like we're kind of aiming for in our game, it's completely viable for me to just DM them and be like, hey, fucking love your stuff. How the fuck did you do that? Like, that's incredible. And I've not met an indie dev yet who has not responded with the same amount of enthusiasm.
Really?
I think they're just happy that you're like obsessed with their thing, and they're like, oh yeah, it's really cool, isn't it? I did it like this. Yeah, but they share stuff all the time. It's for me, it feels way less secretive. It's like,
that's cool.
Oh, you're also making a thing that has a similar style. Well, both our games can look pretty. Or them just telling us how they did it could save us months of R&D. But I don't think they're thinking like that. They just want to share.
Yeah.
And that's what I really like. It's less Black Ops, like
yeah. The antithesis of that is like in AAA, if you make something really cool and fascinating that's unique, a lot of the companies will say, we're going to copyright that, so they own it, like the ping system in Apex.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
God, it's a different world.
Yeah.
I looked it up. Let's take guesses before I say it. From Tina and Jay. Well, how many work at From Software?
How many work at From Software?
Yeah, this is as of June 2023.
So where are they located? They're in Japan, right?
Japan.
Yeah.
What city?
Probably Tokyo. Yeah, they're headquartered in Tokyo. Who knows what else they have? Maybe they're outsourcing out here too. But yeah.
I'm gonna say 150.
Okay,
Cool
Jay.
150.
Oh, I reckon it's way more than 150. I reckon it's because we've got to think they're working on Elden
Armored
Ring
Core,
DLC,
Elden Ring,
Armored Core, and whatever the next thing is that they're
Chrome
working
Hounds
on.
2. Am I right, everybody? No.
No, it's the Berserk.
So they have 3
They're
games going at
finally doing
once?
Berserk.
There's a couple people out there who just heard me say that, and they're like on their phone on the bus or whatever, and they just perked up and they're like, Chrome Hounds. That's a different.
Oh my God.
Oh wait,
I
so
didn't
they
know
have
what that is.
3 games in development at once?
They Elden Ring came out.
Yes.
They have a team internally working on the DLC, which just came out.
Yes.
What was it? 6 months to a year ago, they released Armored Core 6. So
Okay,
that's another
so
team working on a
2
completely different
games
game.
and simultaneously.
And they'll
okay.
have an internal team working on the next project, which will be Elden Ring 2, Bloodborne 2, the Berserk game, whatever. So they have potentially 4 teams working on major projects. And bear
I
in
would
mind the
argue it's
DLC.
probably 2 running at full speed parallel. So like when they're
Yeah.
done with the last game, they start on Elden Ring 2 or whatever.
Well, because I don't think Armored Core 6 had the core Elden Ring team on it. I think it was a separate.
Okay, so
I think it was a
two
separate
teams
project.
at the very
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
Okay, that changes my answer.
At the
What's
very
your new
least,
answer,
It's
Tina?
not 150.
What's your
350.
informed answer? 350, says Jay.
No,
No, I
it's
think
ju-
I reckon they have
no.
600 plus.
What?
Okay.
I
Globally
reckon it's huge.
or just in Tokyo?
Globally with
Okay.
outsourcing.
I'm gonna prices right this shit and say 501.
501?
Ah, 397.
All right, cool.
No.
According to Wikipedia,
that
397.
is so much. Well,
They
hats off to that team.
outsource art or something. They have
Yeah,
to.
they could easily
Right.
I mean, I don't know I'm very curious about Japanese gaming culture. It's very much
Oh,
behind
it's
the
so
veil
different.
to us.
I would
Game
love
dev?
to have this be a topic and for us to have a
Yeah.
dev who works in Japan.
Can I
on
share what
talk
I
about it.
know so
Yeah,
far?
yeah.
So when in the United States at least, and I'm pretty sure it's similar in the UK in some ways, where there's not really necessarily a full-fledged out plan of attack for a game, right? So it's always like prototyping, iterating, experimenting, throwing stuff out, starting new
Yeah.
things, right? And there's no real like you can't really plan for that easily in game dev. So that's why there tends to be crunch, right? When last minute decisions are made that are going to impact the whole game, and you got to catch up. In Japan, from the devs I've talked to, it's a lot more thoughtful and meticulous in the plan and strategy. I don't necessarily believe that they prototype as much. So it's like making games as a service for them. So instead of a designer in America, for instance, saying like, I want to do grappling, like grapple hook, like this game, like let's try that out. And here's a couple things that I want to do with it. And the engineer's like, okay, I'm gonna like give you this feature, and I don't really know what you want, but here you go. In Japan, if you say I want a grappling hook, the designer already has like a design spec. They know what enemies it's going to be used against, what kind of environments it'll be used in. So that's all like pre-packaged, right, neatly. And they say, here you go, here, engineer. Can I have what I need to do all these things? So the engineer is not really like guessing where this is going to go for the game. They already know like the limitations of it. And then they just like deliver the feature.
That kind of makes sense with the Japanese games that I play, because I get a sense of a meticulous design.
Yes.
That's very much this simple, elegant mechanic here will make me interact with the rest of the game in a way that is so on theme and fits everything. And I need to be careful or judicious with this mechanic versus this other mechanic. Like it just feels very balanced with everything. And that approach you just described, I could see leading to that kind of impression.
Like
It
that's
leads
how
to issues as
Nintendo
well,
works
though.
for sure.
I think it can lead to issues. I think sometimes that not all games that come out from Japan, but for some of them, that kind of meticulous approach can lead to stagnant kind of design philosophies and doing stuff because
slowness too.
That's what the genre has done. It's what my next video is on. Actually, to do with FromSoft games and Monster Hunter and using iframes and stuff like that, and how they're using them, and how some of it might be because that's just what the industry has done and that's what players expect, which is not to say that's a bad thing. And how like that kind of experimentation and doing something different we don't see a lot from the East from game dev stuff. I think the Western kind of approach, like you were saying, Tina, is a lot more
Definitely shoot from the hip like America.
It doesn't work. Fuck. Whoops.
Hit your prototype in the back of my truck.
It's what do you want? Right? Like, what do you want as a player? Like, what do you kind of want from your game?
It's wild.
Yeah, I'd love to get someone on from Game Freak, and because I'd really like to get a look into what Game Freak internally is like, because from an outsider's like dev's perspective, I'm like, man, I think they've got issues and they need tissues. You know.
Hey, I like that. I think I've heard that. No, I did hear it in Austin Powers, but it wasn't plural. Michael Caine says, "If you got an issue, here's a tissue." But I like your version better.
Yeah, I've got mine's plural. I've doubled the stakes. But yeah, I'd love to get like, hey, if you're listening and you're a dev working in Japan and have extensive knowledge of the games industry in Japan, we'd love to have you on.
That'd be
Contact
sick.
One of us.
I know
and if you
Yeah.
work on the Resident Evil franchise, then we should hang out. I run that fucking franchise. I never understood I was that big of a Resident Evil fan until recently.
Yeah.
But they display a lot of the things I think that we're talking about.
Mm.
We could do a whole episode on international game development.
Yeah.
Or even like features or like expected features that people like in the in Europe and America would assume work a certain way may not like come across as easily understandable in like China, for instance. You know how like there's coins just like in a map and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go to that and collect it, or rings, like in Sonic, for instance. If you come out with a game in China, they may not know I gotta go and collect that.
Yeah, there was
Because they didn't grow up with the same games and titles that we did, where that was expected.
I don't know how true this is. When I was learning UI at uni, my teacher was like, we were basically doing basic menu UI and interaction costs and blah, 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 blah. And like B was our back button to back out of a menu. And they said, and I could be completely wrong about this, and if I do have somebody from India in the chat who's an avid gamer and is willing to correct me, please do, because I would love to.
My hair.
They said that in India, B isn't back, and it's like they use a different button that they assume is to go back in menus. So you have to like
Is it A or
localize
X?
your controls per region.
Where on the just because B can change right between like Switch, Xbox.
Yeah. So they were
where
saying,
on the
like,
face are you? Oh, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
So normal
That
is
would be
normal B back, but
circle
with an Indian
B.
person.
Yeah, I can't remember because this was like 8 years ago, so I can't remember what they specifically said key press wise. It might have been like triangle or something, like, which is also connected with menuing and stuff like that.
Yep.
And so it's like
that's a real
cultural,
thing.
yeah.
Localized
100%.
menus.
Crazy.
You have to do that in AAA games too.
Mental.
Yeah.
Mental. Absolutely mental. Awesome.
The hardest is when you get into like I would call like the S tier of game dev for UI, which is supporting Thai or Arabic, because their language goes, was it right? Is it right to left? Yeah, right to left.
Yeah, right to left, yeah.
Or left to right. I don't know. It's one or the other. I'm like dyslexic right now. But it's the exact opposite of what you would expect in Western languages. So everything is like just that more difficult and complex to try to um, uh, you know, designed for menus.
It's crazy.
Because the placement's different. So that I think, just to give people perspective, when I think it was Infinite Warfare came out in Arabic for the first time for that franchise. I was on the code team, and production-wise, it took, I want to say, like 9 to 12 months with 4 or 5 UI engineers alone, not even UI design.
Working full time on just that?
Yep. You gotta flip
Seriously?
everything. Yeah.
Wow.
Because you know how you have menus and it's like really pretty placement on the left sometimes.
Well, sure, but
You
9 to
put it
12
to the other
months
side.
for one language, 4 to 5.
Well, it's the
human-
complexity of the menus and like dialogue too, right? Like where all that is in
Yeah.
COD. You have create a class menus there. Like the menu system is just like intense.
Yeah. No,
And that's the job.
I hear you.
That's a job, guys. To everyone in chat, that is a specific job. Like translation and UI engineers that
Oh
are
yeah.
doing those specific things. That's a job.
If
there's so many things
if
you
you're
can do.
bilingual, we need you to help translate our video games.
Mhm.
That's a real thing. Yeah. There you go.
Get to it, guys.
Do we have any questions?
Wait. Let me check. Yeah, let me check the time. Yeah, we'll go see if we got any cheat. think we got a couple donos, and we'll go through them because I know, Mikey, you've got a hard out shortly.
Yeah, I got time now. I'm good on time for a while. Yeah.
Just a reminder, everyone, that all of your wonderful donations go directly to supporting shows like this, along with every other show on. Oh God, I was just about to say the
Design
E.
Dome?
Yeah, and I was going to say the outlet we used to work at, but we no longer work there. Second Wind goes to supporting
Old
every show
habits.
at Second Wind, including Design Delve, Fully Ramblomatic, Cold Take, any show you enjoy, and Dev Heads and all our podcasts. So thank you. And we will go through these right meow. Let me take a look.
Wait,
Yeah,
what's
we've got a
happening to
handful.
me right now?
What's happening?
Is that
to
a
you?
head
Wait,
crab?
what is happening?
This looks
Sorry,
like
I
a
was like,
Half-Life
what are you talking
Alex
about?
type of environment. Let's see how it does.
Yeah, it does
Pretty
look like
good.
a Half-Life Alex. Wait,
What's behind me?
you've got like a
Can you flip your hair?
crowbar as well.
How'd that look?
That looks
Tina
great.
like that.
Oh my God, the
What?
head crab! You just knocked the head crab off.
Oh, I did. I hit it with my
Yeah, with the
crowbar. Ha ha
crowbar.
ha.
Nice.
For anybody who
Oh, it's
hasn't
back.
already figured this out, I'm an enormous Half-Life dork, like big time. It's a problem. But what's the A? Is that A11 over here?
Yeah.
It looks like
Oh,
it.
thank you, Eric. Let me get a hold of that. It's not. Yeah, it's. Maybe if I move my hand around a lot, I can grab this crowbar.
This is what technology has brought us to.
We're running the gamut of famous FPS now. That looks pretty good. Wow. I've been playing a shitload of Doom lately, like Doom 1 and 2 modded.
Are you wait, is in like OG Doom, or are you talking about Eternal and
OG Doom, 1993,
Damn, dude.
94, Doom 1 and Doom 2, I think.
How are you finding it?
It's fun. I'm playing with a mod. I've been obsessed with it called Hideous Destructor. It's like a tactical survival simulation game, like the kind where you need to like physically take off your armor and then scan yourself and give yourself a blood pack if you're low on blood, treat burns with a special button, treat gun wounds with another, or pull out your trauma kit and like apply a numbing agent and then saline to clean the wound. It's nuts.
OG Doom.
And OG Doom, pull out a magazine and then individually put bullets into each magazine and then back into the gun. I love it. It's crazy.
That doesn't go well with my run and gun and
No, it might not be for you. I'm all about like I like pretty much all FPS, but I obviously I'm passionate about tactical shooters and the hardcore shooters, and this is just something I discovered recently. So the Doom helmet fits perfectly for me, even if it's 2016.
Jesus, I'm gonna check that out after this. That sounds amazing.
I'll link you.
All right. John Brooks with 10 quid. Thank you so much. Says, good afternoon, all. Jermaine, hope you and Ludo are coping with this sudden heat. It has got hot all of a sudden, isn't it? Question: if you had not got into being devs, what careers do you think you'd have? What do you think you guys would be?
I before this, like while I was doing the writing and voiceover thing, I was working in a restaurant. I was also doing fireworks, like working with explosives. I would do fireworks shows in parts of New Jersey, which was interesting. Neither of those really interested me. That was kind of stuff on the side. I really don't know. I might have enlisted. I might have joined the military because I had a lot of friends that were doing that. I had some Marine friends who wouldn't have let me become a Marine. They would have said, "No, Mikey, do not do that." But I don't know. Maybe I would have done something a little like the Air Force or something. Security forces might have gotten involved in that as like a test to see if I wanted to do something more like a first responder. Maybe not even necessarily law enforcement, but that kind of drew me because they didn't want to like sit behind a desk doing something monotonous. And I was interested. Like my parents worked in medicine. My dad's a primary care. Mom's a psychotherapist. So I think I was drawn to doing something that helps people or is like involved and on your feet a little bit at least, or at least specialized knowledge. I do sit at a desk all day, I guess now, but I stand, as you can see, and but at least I'm doing stuff that I'm more interested in. That might have been a path for me. It really depends. I did want to start working at that time after college, so that might have been something I did.
What about you, Tina?
Looking at your child. It's so cute.
Oh, I love
Oh,
that.
baby.
Yeah.
So docile.
I was studying for the LSAT, which is the test you need to take to get into law school here in the US. But I also was really into fashion in a superficial way, but I guess all fashion's superficial. So I probably would have fallen into one of those two categories. If I went the law school route, I was really interested in international law, and I don't know what I would have done with that.
Travel somewhere else, maybe? Or what's international law like?
Good question. I think I wanted to take it because it was going to give me an opening into studying. For whatever reason, I was like fascinated by canon law, and a canon lawyer told me to do that. Canon law is just like what the Catholic Church uses to validate if their beliefs, I guess, or to debate beliefs against other religions. A canon lawyer. I took religious studies, and that was my minor. So I was just fascinated by it. That's a whole other thing. I don't necessarily agree with everything, and women aren't really allowed in the Catholic Church. I was just more fascinated by their library not having access.
That's super
I don't know.
interesting.
Yeah, it was just like a weird thing. But international law, I think it could have gone in a bunch of different routes where you study like immigration reform, helped companies deal with like having their businesses in other places and stuff like that. That's like, I don't know.
So someone in the
Bleh.
chat says canon law with 2 N's and then an emoji of a bomb. I know a little bit of canon law. I know in Jersey, at least back when I did it, you can't fire an 8-inch shell out of a tube unless you do it electronically from a certain distance. Anything under 8 inches, you could do with a flare, like by hand. I think that was the law, something like that. That's the canon law I know.
No, I don't know. I'm still fascinated by fashion, so that's like my side interest right now when I'm not talking about games. So there's no Venn diagram really of like where fashion and game development really overlap other than like DLC. So
Designing, skins or something.
yeah.
What about you, Jay?
Speaking of the Vatican's libraries that are inaccessible, I'd probably be doing what I was doing before I got into game dev, which is go back to being a professional magician. So I used to be a magician.
Tina?
What the fuck?
Tina? Did everybody
Was that
see
just
what
super
Tina just
unexpected?
rudely did?
It came out
No,
of
go
my
ahead.
nose.
No. Collect yourself.
It burns.
Oh, I wonder why
That's
it
what you
burns.
get. That's what you
That
get.
might be a little bit
Sorry.
karmic, Tina.
Okay.
So Jay,
Yeah.
you were saying something about your passion and a potential career
Yeah.
for you before somebody interrupted you.
I know.
No, tell me
And
more.
continues.
I used to be Tina.
Yeah.
Collect yourself. I used to be.
Wait, the way you
back in
said
the
Tina
day-
with that intonation was so teacher-like. I love it. Please.
I
continue.
know. I can't get rid of it. I used to be Professional.
The way she's swallowing her lips, like trying to stifle it all.
Okay, I'm not gonna laugh.
Please
So go
continue.
ahead, say it.
I'm done too. I'm done.
Collect yourself. See if you can do
Yeah,
this.
I'm good. Okay, you're.
I used to perform magic.
Well, when you okay, I'll give Tina some credit. If you're gonna build it up like that, you're gonna get a laugh.
But yeah, I used to
Mhm.
Tina. I used to perform magic. I don't know why
Eric.
it's so
Thank you,
funny for
Eric.
Tina.
I'm sorry.
You,
Go
you
on.
see your
I want
face.
it. What kind
Yeah.
of magic?
I'm sorry. I used to perform. I used to perform
This is
I
a
used
good
to
question,
perform
whoever asked.
close up.
I just was not expecting that.
I used to perform close up, like kind of street magic. I used to do this thing when you either perform on a stage or you do stuff called table hopping, which is where you go
Yeah.
table to table performing, events. And stuff
Okay,
like,
like card games and stuff, or card stuff.
yeah, like specifically card magic and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
nice.
in the magic circle. I was like, it was my job.
Damn. Did
And-
you know
and
that?
you-
Oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Tina. Yeah.
I was gonna say the Magic Castle. You know what the Magic Castle is here
Yeah,
in LA,
yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
owned by Randy Pitchford, the Gearbox. Was he a studio
Huh.
head or
He
founder
owns
of
it?
Gearbox?
I think he was. I thought he
Yeah.
Did
owned
he
it.
like
Yeah.
buy it?
He bought it. He recently bought it.
I'm pretty sure he does because I think I remember
He's a
like a
magician
video where he's
too.
talking about owning Duke Nukem, and yeah, he's a
I was
magician.
I
too.
was at
Wow, I need to meet
E3
fellow game dev
at
magicians.
a bar, and he was just like doing a card game. I'm like, what is this? This is amazing.
I like how you called it a card game.
I'm sorry, magic. Can you did you have like a
No. Okay.
Like
So what Eric
magic.
is putting me to do now? What Eric is putting me so like there are 3 forms of magic. There's close
Okay.
up,
Mhm.
there's close up, there's stage and furniture magic. They're 3 kind of
Furniture?
categories.
Furniture?
Yeah. Yeah.
IKEA,
So
like
everybody goes. So close up is the stuff you're used to, the stuff with cards, coins, rings and stuff like that. Sleight of hand stuff. It's all very close. You can do it in person, at any time, basically. Then there's stage magic, which is sawing people in half and fire and
Mhm.
that kind of stuff, which I don't like at all, really. And then there's furniture magic, which is what you would describe as like David Copperfield or people in Las Vegas who make cars disappear or do those crazy things. In magic we call it furniture magic because you're doing stuff with big objects like furniture.
I see.
So
Okay,
you
I
require
see.
teams of people and sets to be able to do furniture magic.
I
It's
said
funny because the
I-
kind of magic with the most sizzle and bombastic stuff is the one with the most mundane name.
Mhm.
It's interesting.
Furniture.
But anyway, sorry. Continue. Yeah.
No, I was like, when he said furniture, I was like, IKEA magic. Like, you go to IKEA and you're just like, holy crap.
And you know
Holy
exactly what you
shit.
want, and you arrive there immediately.
Yeah.
No, the IKEA magic is going in IKEA and leaving without buying something. That's the real magic.
Ta-da!
Nobody's ever done it. But yeah, I was very much a close-up magician. All of this magic bullshit, I'm not against it, but I find it kind of corny. I just as a kid was obsessed with sleight of hand and concealing and like just the art of sleight of hand, and so I dedicated myself to it for I think 12 years.
That's
And just
cool.
like I did it
12
every day.
years.
Yeah. Not
So-
professionally for 12 years. I studied it since I was like
Yeah.
you can't really see it, but I have like an entire display up here which is just like all of my magic books and cards I've collected.
Yeah, we could see it a little bit. Yeah.
What's the
Um,
difference between amateur magic and professional magic? Like,
You
where's
get
the line
paid.
drawn? Okay.
Yeah, you do it, you get paid to do it. That's basically it. Like
Got it.
it's you're paid at events to do it and stuff like that. Like wait, I'll show you something. I have a deck of
You
cards.
could- Oh shit! Magic.
Oh
Like
my
magic,
god,
he
I won't
produced
do a
it.
trick.
Someone in the chat said something really funny. I worked at an IKEA. the magic is gone now. That she could. Not
Okay.
while Tina's drinking. I need
Oh
to drink
man.
now.
Wait, I'll
Oh,
see.
man.
I'll see. Okay. Can you see my hand?
Yes.
Yeah. Do some
So,
magic,
just
please.
play cards, right?
Wait, I didn't see any red cards.
There are red cards in there.
Okay, I see it now. Okay.
Wait, this isn't real magic. There's no red cards.
Okay. I'm just gonna do some like little flourishes.
Very nice. Very nice.
Are you counting cards? There's 56, right?
Whoa, that's good flourishing. I thought there's 52 cards in a deck.
52,
wrong?
yeah.
No,
I
there's
don't
only
think
one in
you're
here. Really thick card. No,
There's
but
a-
I don't do it anymore. But I used to. But I'm not the type of person. So like, a lot of the times when you meet people who are or were magicians, at any opportunity they'd be like, "Let me show you," as Tina would say, "Let me show you a card game." But
I can do a card game for you if you want.
I'm not really. I obsessively studied it and practiced it for years and years and years and years. Did it professionally for a short while, but I'm not the type of person to just be like, oh, let me show you some tricks just for fun. Like the guys I studied game design with at uni, we were on our third year of uni, and I'd been a professional magician for like a few years at that point, and none of them knew I did magic because I just never brought it up. And somebody had a deck of cards and I shuffled them, just like, not like I did there, but I just shuffled the card and handed it back to them. They were like, oh, you can shuffle really well. That's cool. I was like, yeah, I'm a magician. They're like, fucking what?
Oh, that's
Because-
a perfect discovery. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm like, oh, I'll show you some things. But like, I find the people who are like, let me show you a trick, let me show you a card game. No offense to them, I find it a little bit insufferable. Like,
Yeah.
people, not
Sure,
everyone wants
yeah.
to see magic. You know, not everyone wants to, see card games.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I tend to just be like, if people know I can do it and they want to see something, they'll ask. I don't need to like walk around a bar being like, "Hello, would you like to see a card game?" You
Well,
know?
I
mean-
request it.
I wouldn't be
What? Go
mad
ahead.
if you did that. That's fine.
No, but no. See, you guys now know that I can do it. So when we meet up in person, you can say, "Hey Jay, show me a card game," and I will.
And if you don't have a deck of cards, you can magically produce.
I
them,
will have a
conjure
deck of
them
cards on
like
me. I
a
always do.
mage with water and WoW.
Yeah. I can just.
Good.
But yeah, it was a whole thing. I was part of the magic circle, which is a huge thing in England. It's mad. I miss it. I just never get.
Do you
to
have
really do
a
it anymore.
name? Like a magician name?
Yeah, James. Most people call me that, or Jay.
James. My magic name is James.
No, I don't have a magic. So like, this is the thing. I don't have like. I didn't wear a
James the
top hat.
magician.
I didn't like
James the
pull
magic.
bunnies out my ass or anything. Like, it's just like I like to think I was and still am good with cards. I'm very good at card cheating and sleight of hand and concealing things. All tricks I would do would just be like, I'm gonna do something and you're not gonna be able to see it.
Oh my
And
God,
that's how my tricks
amazing.
go. They're not like
That's very cool.
I'm pulling a card out of the ether. My favorite trick is you could name a card and name an area in the room, and that card will be there in that spot.
What?
Yeah.
Like you hid them there previously or something, or?
No.
He can't. He's a magician, Tina. He can't.
Yeah, I can't reveal it. Well, no, I can't reveal it on our podcast to like our thousands of listeners. But maybe if we're having a drink in LA at some point, I can divulge some secrets. But no,
I'm in.
I wouldn't hide it there previously. You could freely name a card. It's not like mentalism forcing them to say a thing. And freely name somewhere in the room, and the card will be there. And it's an extremely difficult trick, extremely difficult, and requires some kind of nutty sleight of hand. But I practiced it for a long time, and I got very good at it. But yeah, the best thing, we'll get off magic in a second. This is the first time I ever went to the magic circle, assuming everyone was going to be really uptight and secretive. The magic circle is basically a boys' club for magicians to trade secrets and stuff like that. And there's a vetting process to get in and stuff. So I went there, and there was this trick I could do, which was you could name a card, and then it would be inside your wallet. So you'd name a card, I'd say open your wallet, and it would be in there.
What?
It's a very common trick, and I could do that one. And then it requires a load of stuff, and I obviously know how it's done. And I did it to this magician, and he was like, "Oh, that's really cool." And he was like, "Check your wallet." And then I opened my wallet, and then that card that I put in his wallet was in my wallet. And I was like,
What?
"How the fuck did you do that?" And I thought to myself, "Dude, I'm gonna be obsessing over this because I know all of the sleights, I know all of the things, right?" And I had no idea how he did it, and I was like, "I'm gonna be obsessing over this for years, and he's never gonna tell me." And I was like,
like
"Dude, that was
Ocean's
insane."
11, all these heisters
It was
tricking
insane.
each
And then
other
he
or
went-
something.
He did it, and then he went, "Right, did you like that?" And I said, "Yeah, that was awesome, dude. Oh, I'm gonna be obsessed with that." And he was like, "So here's how you do it," and he immediately told me how to do it
Oh, that's cool.
because we were in the magic circle, so it's all about sharing what you do
When you're in the
So
circle.
That's what like indie game dev is the magic circle.
It's like the magic circle.
We want to see how I did these magical shaders. Here you
Yeah.
go. Whoa, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's so yeah, I'd probably be doing that. I kind of quit because it's very, very competitive, and like bitchy, like because there's only so many weddings and events that
Bitchy.
want magicians, right?
Oh, I see.
Okay.
And everyone's very like out for themselves to get their own work. They're happy to trade secrets and teach each other stuff, but to actually get the work, they'll fuck you over so that they get that work rather than you.
My God,
So
what?
yeah, I was like, yeah, fuck this. Do you know what? Fuck this industry. I'll go be a game dev. That seems less toxic. You know, way less card games, just games.
Man, that
Well,
was
what
like
you have-
the shock of the show. I just what? I don't know what I was expecting. I just had a full mouthful of like hot water wake me up.
Straight through your nasal
It's fine.
passages.
It's fine. It's fine. I commonly get that reaction all the time.
Really?
Well, I think it's
No.
cool. I
No,
think
I've
it's
never
cool
had
and
someone
very interesting.
spit water out of their nose by me saying I used to be a magician.
I just-
Yeah, Tina.
Most people just go, "Oh yeah, cool." Move on.
Alright.
Another
I
show
heard-
we need to ask Tina what's so funny about that.
Yeah, what
Oh,
is so
yeah.
funny about being a magician?
It's not even that. It's just we were like having a serious conversation.
So magic isn't serious, is it?
It's not serious. Is my previous occupation
I gotta go.
not serious?
You know what's messed up is I really have to go, and I feel like I'm just bailing.
Oh, so now
on being
you
in the
have
hot
to go.
seat.
Well, I guess.
Do you have
we'll see
time
you
for
later,
2
Tina.
quick donations, or do you need to leave right now?
Yes, let's do them. Yeah.
Okay.
let's do them.
Dark Jackal says, I've got to run, just like Tina and Mikey. But it's been lovely as always listening in on everyone chatting. Have a great day, y'all. In a bit, Dark Jackal. And one more, just a casual spectator with $5 says, I'm so sorry, nowhere near on topic, but I'm curious, why do games have locked walking sequences instead of cutscenes, like God of War?
Hmm.
Okay, rapid fire. Tina, go first. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say there was a forced walk scene in the latest God of War because I was the producer on it. Why? It's just a choice. Next question. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a
Yeah.
choice.
I would speculate, like coming at it from like my design perspective, get players familiar with the controls, even if it's as simple as just like looking around with the camera. Not need to worry about like all the production that's involved with like making a cutscene. Just using a bunch of in-game stuff and being okay with that, because looking at it through that lens is basically it's just like less expensive and it's a different pipeline. That could be part of it too.
An assortment of things. It's like they really want you to see a specific scripted moment, and they want to control what the player does, but not necessarily take away full control.
Yeah, they want to feign
Yeah.
some level of interactability. along
Make you
with-
feel immersed, like you're there, but carefully,
Yeah.
controlledly.
But they
Sometimes they
need to
can
slow you
backfire,
down.
though.
Yeah.
They can
Yeah,
backfire.
they could definitely be done poorly.
Yeah, like with anything. But yeah, I think collectively everyone has to skedaddle because we've just got entrenched in our wonderful conversations about the industry.
When you do hand things now, I'm just gonna
Oh,
think
Tina.
magician.
Okay, so I'm gonna finish the stream like this.
Just
So-
sitting on your hands.
I can't do it. The magic's bursting out.
I have to be magical.
You can't help it.
Okay, so thank you so much for watching, guys. Just a reminder, Patreon, if you want to support the future conversations on card games and the industry crumbling, come to Patreon.
It started with noses when I was talking about my nose stuff. I don't know what Quake smells like, whatever I said.
Yeah.
And then now we come
started
back
with
to
bad
your
breath.
with bad breath. That's true. That's true. And then we're still
now-
there in
now
your
we've
face,
ended
Tina,
by
because we're
this.
talking about your nose and shooting water.
Yeah,
through
there
it.
you go. There you go.
So
Full circle.
If you want to support this and any of the other shows or here on Second Wind, consider checking out. I just realized I got the hat on. Consider checking out the Patreon and also super chats and all of that. I'm not sure if we've got other streams. Oh yes, Jack and Marcy are playing Elden Ring shortly.
Mm.
I'm not sure exactly when, but they'll be doing that. But yeah, check that out and thank you so much for joining. I've been Jay, and this is Tina and Mikey. Bye.
thank
Bye.
you, everybody. Bye bye.